If they say why, tell them that it's human nature. Okay. Alright, guys, welcome back to another episode of the One Couch Podcast. I believe this is episode 9. This one's going to be a quick little episode. I just wanted to talk about the Michael Jackson Netflix documentary that recently just came out. I mentioned on a couple episodes back that I wanted to watch it because I wanted to get the full story. I really wanted to, see the full story before I make some, actual statements and stuff like that. And now I did, and it's very obvious to me what happened during the case. And yeah, we're just gonna talk about that. Let's just get straight into it. Okay, so I just want to start it off by saying that I obviously think, I know Michael is innocent. Not to mention that he won the case and he got found innocent, but I know for a fact he didn't do it. All the signs and everything that happened on, the case, it was pretty obvious what the hell happened. I've mentioned this before, but it seems like people just wanted a payday. And let me explain why. I'm not just saying that just to say, because clearly on the documentary, they made it clear that everybody that was testifying against him were former workers of him that left on bad terms or had, okay, that's great. Like I was saying, everyone that testified against him were former workers that left on bad terms or had bad blood with him. So I feel like it's easy for them to try to ruin him, I think the fact that he loved kids in not a sexual way, literally, like I said, he never really had a childhood. So I feel like this was his way of, letting out his inner child or healing his inner child. And he just loved kids. He made it clear that he just loved kids. I feel like if it was something suspicious, he would have kept it, under wraps. He wouldn't have, made it public, but he wasn't hiding it, that he loved children in not a sexual way. And, it was super easy for people to just twist the narrative, and make it into something sexual, into something, crazy or something like that. And, it's messed up. It's messed up because they really took advantage of that. They took advantage of the fact that he loved kids in a normal way, literally just a normal way. But the point where, I will give it to them is that I guess it was a little weird that he did like to invite children into his bed. And, I feel like in his defense, he had like an innocent mindset. He didn't interpret it in any kind of sexual way. But obviously the media is gonna find it weird inviting children into your bed. That just always is gonna sound wrong. But some people are just innocent minded, and they watch the movies. He made it clear he would tuck them in. He'd give them warm milk, I guess, or whatever. And I could see how that could be weird. But that is not a smoking gun that he did something. That's the base. That's the main base that people surround this case around is he invited kids into his bed, and from that it was just straight suspicion. I think this, I think that, or it was all just speculation. There was no like solid proof. They didn't find no DNA of nothing. They didn't find no footage or anything that was a smoking gun. Now, the details that, the people that testified, the kids mainly, they testified and they were describing, was a little weird. How, I guess, one of the kids described a marking on his private part, or another kid described a briefcase full of pornography, I guess. That was a bit weird that they got that down. But I feel like that can easily be fabricated. That can easily be manipulated, into like the children that are in that case, Like, per se, someone that had intercourses in the past with Micheal can easily tell that information to anyone, you know, especially some people that hold grudges on him. Oh yeah, he has a marking on this. Describe it to the you know, detectives or the police or whatever, and you know, that's a smoking gun. That can easily be manipulated. And that's why I feel like that's not like solid proof either, you know. It's not to say that, you know, it's disproved, but you know, it's it's not a smoking gun. Oh yeah, and not to mention, there was a kid that saw a magazine, and they were like, "Is this the magazine?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's the magazine." Only to then discover that that magazine wasn't published until later on, and at that point, the kid wasn't in the Neverland Ranch or whatever, completely disproving, and if not, kind of showing, you know, that they're lying. And I feel like that just completely killed their story that they were trying to, you know, the narrative that they were trying to build. Then and there, I would have, you know, if I was on that case, I would have like, this is suspicious. This is nah. And not to mention the family that went on trial against him, or made claims or whatever. I'm not 100% sure. They had a track record of lying. I believe the mother was in an incident in some J.C. Penney, I guess, and she was caught robbing, and then she claimed that the person that caught her molested her in the parking lot. Like, honestly, call me biased, but you know, everything that was on that case was straight speculation. I think this, I think that. There was no smoking guns. Like I said, there was no actual footage found. There was no actual like DNA or anything that was a smoking gun. And yeah, you know, I'm bringing this up because, you know, I got the full story or not the full story, but I got, you know, the basics down, because beforehand I was putting my opinion on it. I was like, he's innocent, he is innocent, but not knowing anything at all. But now I feel like, you know, I don't know, I feel like the documentary was made by people that were against Micheal, and you know, even then it sounded like he was clear, you know. And I think the judge made a good decision in, you know, calling innocent, you know. And you know, not to mention, he died a couple years after he won the case. If you ask me, the person that fabricated this didn't like the fact that he won the case. Right there. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents on the whole Micheal situation. I know, you know, my word doesn't mean anything because he was already proven innocent. But this is just for those people that still believe that Micheal is not innocent, and he's guilty or whatever. But and yeah, I mean, I promise you, when I was watching the documentary, I was trying to give those people the benefit of the doubt. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to hear them out. I'm not just gonna nah. You know, I know it might seem like that, but I was like, okay, that is pretty weird. Now let's see what the other side has to say, disproving every single little thing. And yeah, it just seemed like a dead end from their end. It seemed like they just wanted a payday and they failed. And sad, cry about it. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the One Couch Podcast. Short episode, I know, but I just had to get this off my chest. And who knows, I might make more episodes like this instead of making a bunch of long form ones. It's easier to make for sure. But yeah, guys, thank you guys for joining me today. I'll see you guys on the next one, and peace.